I will start to introduce our first session. Matt Colebourne is taking over. He's the CEO of Searchmetrics since nearly 3 years now. He took over shortly before the pandemic hit. Since then, he did a lot of sessions for us. He's passionate about search data, and with his sessions, also he wants to passionate everyone else about the impact of search data. He is having a lot of experience in several digital marketing companies, and yeah, as I said, a big fan of search data. I'm very happy he's kicking off today's summit to make sure we all know why search data and SEO is so important for our businesses. So please welcome Matt in our studio in Berlin, finally. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Like, what are you doing here? What's your job? Why are you doing this?
Oh boy, that's a big question, and that could definitely take quite some while. No, I've been here nearly 3 years. I started off in the very early days of digital marketing back in the late.
Which year? Which year?
I think the appropriate question is which decade.
Okay. Okay.
It was the 90s.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, very, very early on. So I've seen the industry explode from, remember those 468 by 60 banners? You probably won't. But
no,
that's kind of where digital marketing as a whole really started. And to see it come from that through video, interactivity, search, affiliate, all of the networks that have sprung up, all of the different ways now that we can communicate with people. And fundamentally, the way that the industry has got much, much better at understanding what people really want.
Okay.
And really, rather than forcing things into people and pushing them to buy things that they're not really interested in, what we can particularly do with search is satisfy needs. People actually are expressing, and now across so many different channels, it's not just search engines anymore. It's all the places where people are expressing some kind of need or interest or desire, whether that be for information, to buy something, to connect, just to research. All of those things now are so sophisticated. But of course, what that means is, we start from simple basis, but then we go into an environment that we found now where people get lost.
That's true.
And I think this is what I'm really passionate about, is how do we get back to some simplicity? How do we marry this massively complicated situation now? Marketers are looking at so many ways, so many channels that they can reach people. How do we, with all these different channels, with all of the sophistication that exists, with the mastery that you now need, and that hopefully we're going to help people develop this afternoon, yes. At the same time, how do we take that mastery of the subject area and turn it back into discussions that you can have with a CMO or a CEO, somebody senior, a budget holder, and saying, we're not asking you to buy tools. We're not asking you to spend money. What we're asking you to do is to invest in one of the most important digital marketing channels, and one that I fundamentally believe is going to become much, much more important in a slightly slowing environment.
Oh, that sounds very awesome. I think we will have more infos about it in your session upcoming now. And I would like to hand over now completely to you. I think we are on point, 10 minutes. So officially your time starts now, 15 minutes.
Okay. I've got 15 minutes.
Well, you can do it, I'm pretty sure. So have fun. Please, everyone, put in your questions to the chat during his session. If you have some, we will have some minutes afterwards together with Matt. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I wouldn't in any sense call myself a master SEO. So the whole point of my session is to welcome you and also to put it into context as to why would you want to master SEO? Why is it so important? And what's likely to happen within businesses, within marketing teams? And I think right now there is an awful lot of concern. People are worried. They're saying, hang on a minute. We've got problems. The industry is struggling. Doesn't marketing always get hit hardest and first in a downturn? And I think now the answer is not necessarily. It used to be. And it used to be for a very, very good reason, which was people knew there was a huge amount of wastage. They didn't know what worked and what didn't. Nowadays, we do. We can prove it. So marketing has gone from being, if you like, a religious faith, where we all went, hey, we know we need to do it, and we know it works, but we also know that there's an awful lot of it that doesn't, and we can't really tell the difference anymore. So guess what? Tough times, we're going to cut budgets. We are now moving into an environment where we can say, this definitely worked, and this didn't. And the reason that I'm mentioning this right at the get-go is because I do fundamentally feel that this is sometimes where, as SEO businesses and practitioners, we go wrong. We go wrong because we go into different metrics. We start talking about metrics that don't necessarily make sense to a CMO or a CEO. And therefore, we're asking them to go back to the old model and believe. And I don't think that we do need to believe, because the whole raison d'etre for SEO is to understand demand. People are explicitly stating what they're looking for in a way that hardly happens anywhere else. You think about it, if I go and stand in the high street, stop 10 passers-by, and assuming that 2 of them don't kick me and ask me what on earth I'm doing stopping them, which could well happen, but let's assume that I managed to get an answer from them. A large part of what they're going to say is what they think they should, not necessarily what they really should. And one of the massive advantages that we have as SEO specialists is we are working with real expressed demand. People have to type into a search engine what they're looking for, or they don't get it. And therefore, what we at Searchmetrics have as our vision is to help our clients unlock business potential by understanding, leveraging, and responding to that expressed demand. But let me go back to and address this perception that I think exists right now. People are saying, we are doomed. Oh my God, we're going into a contraction. Companies are letting off significant percentages of their workforce. People are scared. People are saying, well, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for jobs? What does it mean for the economy? What does it even mean in some cases for household budgets? So let's have a little look before we get too carried away and look at what's happening with the big players. Now, much as I'm sure Elon Musk wouldn't like it to be the case, before anybody says, hang on a minute, Twitter does not have revenues that are directly comparable with those other two players. That, of course, is the case. So the Twitter numbers are on the right, significantly smaller to those on the scale on the left. I'm not really interested, though, and the reason I've done it that way is I didn't want to highlight the actual numbers. It's almost immaterial. What's important is let's have a look at the trend. And I think what you can see in that, that's reasonably easy to see, is that there is a longer term trend. This data, by the way, comes from Statista. I actually did have, I downloaded 10 years worth of quarterly earnings data to get this, and then of course couldn't put it on the graph. Interesting thing is, when I put that much data on the graph, so you couldn't really see which quarter was which, you know what? All of those started looking very much like straight lines. Straight lines that went roughly like that had fluctuations. And I'm actually glad for once, and thankful to Luca for mentioning that I've been in this industry for quite some while, because back in '97, we wrote a range of budgets for how we thought digital marketing technology, which is what I was selling at the time, was going to grow. 4 years later, we'd just gone through the first internet crash, and everybody went, oh my goodness, we've just crashed. Yet when we looked back at the forecast that we'd put together in late 97, what we found was that our most ambitious, our most positive forecast had been exceeded towards the end of 2001, despite what was then perceived as a crash. And if you look at that data, does it not look suspiciously like a little bit of a significant bump? And we can assign that to all kinds of things, probably and most likely the impact of a pandemic. And now we're starting to look more normal. We're reverting to trend. Now, I don't want to be overly optimistic. I'm not saying, hey, everything is great. But we are definitely not doomed. Now, you may say, well, hang on a minute, Matt, you chose to put up just, get the technology to work, chose to put up the big three, or a big three. But let's look at Amazon. Amazon, interesting, and what I put up is all of their different divisions, including AWS. So we're no longer just looking at advertising tech. We're actually looking now at computer technology, and Amazon AWS is a great forecaster because so many businesses are now using cloud for their technology provision. So it's a good indicator of what's happening at a fundamental level. But then you've also got physical stores, you've got online stores, as you can see in the graph. And again, I would argue, look at the shape of those curves. This is not a sudden, oh my goodness, our industry is collapsing. This is a reversion to the mean, to the norm. We are still overall on an upward and positive path. Now, no doubt, things are going to get tougher. Absolutely no doubt. So everything that I've just said is reason to be positive for the future and to know that we're still going as an industry, as a business, in the right direction. But in the shorter term, yes, things are going to get tougher. But I'm going to put it to you very, very strongly. Tough situations, pressure creates opportunity. This was an article published recently in Campaign by two very well-known marketers, not specifically digital marketers. Multi-channel, including both digital and offline and outdoor. And this goes precisely to the point I was making, particularly the second one. What's absolutely critical is measurement. It's being able to prove that money being spent is delivering a return. But it is not asking for budget, it is asking for investment to achieve a given goal. And sometimes we struggle slightly with that because people turn around and they say, hang on a minute. Yes, there's display, there's paid social, there's all these different channels. SEO is different. We're not paying for that in the same way. It behaves very differently, and you've got to accept that because you can't compare like for like. For anything else, let's think about it. It takes longer to have an impact. We've got to wait for sites to be crawled. We've got to wait for changes to be made. takes longer for us to do it in the first place. If we decide we've got to rewrite whole sections of our website in order to improve our SEO performance, then clearly that's going to take time and effort. And it also takes expertise. Right? We need people, and I'm hoping that lots of those people are joining our summit today with the expertise to see what needs to be done, to lead other people to do that. So all of that mitigates against SEO sometimes. And that's a problem, in that if we are not perceived as measurable in the way that senior marketers are expecting, then we probably won't achieve the scale that I believe SEO should have within the marketing mix. But why is a downturn, why are tougher times potentially good for us? Well, think about it. Budgets are plentiful. I'm a CMO. I've got a sizable budget. I can afford to invest in brand building. I can afford to invest in a few campaigns that I'm not really sure are going to work. But you know what? I've got the budget. I'm going to give it a go. And along comes somebody and says to me, Matt, you should really be spending more money on improving your SEO performance. And I say, well, good idea. What's it going to give me and how long is it going to take? And they say, well, it depends. And then they say to me, well, I need to get the IT department to change the website, and I need to get some content people on board to rewrite large sections of my site. And I start going, but you know what? If I just up my Google spend tomorrow, then the day after, I'm generating more traffic. So there's the scenario in a great situation, large budgets, everything's going great. But now we're in a situation where there's going to be pressure. CMOs, businesses are going to be looking at measuring, and they're going to be looking at improving the ratios between cost of customer acquisition and the value they get from those customers. And that's where SEO wins, and we all know it wins. Okay? It works for longer. It gives a much better ROI. Yes, it takes a bit of work, but the result of that effort is extremely positive. We can deliver ROIs massively ahead of paid search. So I put it to everybody on this call, yes, build your expertise. Hugely important. Know what you're talking about. But also really focus on what value does this bring to a business. We need to talk as an industry about marketing metrics. And I've said this many times in the past, and I keep saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it, because the advantage of having been in digital marketing for 25 years is if there's one thing I've learned, you're still focused on delivering market metrics. And SEO delivers fantastic marketing metrics when it's done right. So I'm hoping today is going to help everybody here do it right. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for this amazing session. And we are in time, unbelievable. I couldn't imagine this will happen. Of course, normally we all sometimes it's a little bit over time, but it's fine. Thank you very much. It was very easy to listen. And we have a few questions. What do you think businesses should be spending on SEO? Is there like a...
I hate to say it depends, but of course it does.
It's a favorite answer for
yes,
every
I know.
SEO.
Exactly.
Yes.
My personal view is it should be somewhere in the 12 to 18% range.
Okay.
I think in most cases, particularly when you look at the interaction between SEO and paid search, and most companies do tend to go, I would say, slightly too heavy on paid search because it's so easy. That's the problem.
But I think in the long term, it's more expensive, right?
Exactly. It is more expensive. But it's easy and it's fast and it works. And the bottom line is it works, right? It does give a positive ROI if you do it right. So from my perspective, where we've looked at some of our most successful clients, it's somewhere in that 12 to 18% range, because that typically seems to optimize the overall performance the best. But it's going to vary. It's going to depend on where the performance is to be found, how you can actually improve the performance of your organic search.
Yeah.
Typically, what we find is people have gone slightly too heavy on paid, not heavy enough on SEO. And of course, a lot of what SEO does, particularly on the technical side, is improve conversion. And if you improve the conversion because you're doing it to improve your SEO, of course, it also has exactly the same impact on your paid search. So you start getting this amplification effect that all of the traffic that you were previously bringing, you're still bringing that, but now it's converting better because it's got the right message to the right people at the right time.
Yeah, but if I can say that, for me personally, if I'm using the Search Console, I'm just bored of 10,000 of ads in the beginning because I cannot find really what I'm looking for. Exactly. And this is paid. And it's just like you said in the beginning, it's just too many things happening at the same time. And I'm not really reaching my goal very easy because I have to scroll so many times to find a organic result for the things I'm looking for.
It's true. And I think if they're not careful, this is one of the things that will actually hurt search engines. In that if you create, people have now got search bars everywhere. You think about it, people search for products on TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube, on pretty much everywhere where they go. People are now going, okay, well, that's an opportunity to sell. And I think if you pollute the environment too much, people will they understand that services have to be paid for. That's not a problem. But if you pollute it too much, then you create a very negative environment and it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, the experience for the user is not very good then in the end.
The other thing that I think is kind of not really answering the question directly, to be honest, but I think it's important to say, as SEOs, I actually have a problem with the phrase SEO because it says search engine optimization. I'm more interested in optimizing to meet the stated demand better. If we think of ourselves as businesses, right, what we should really be thinking about is when somebody types in that, not that I want to artificially get higher up a ranking, what you actually should be thinking is, what need or desire has been expressed here? How do I make sure that my site naturally rises to the top because it most accurately satisfies that? In other words, it's going away from what you just said, which is loads of irrelevance. Right? Let's assume in an ideal world the search engine does a perfect job. Our job is then to make sure that what we have on our sites accurately represents the need that's been expressed.
So we should call it search intent optimization.
Yeah, well, I quite like demand optimization, but nobody else does, so I've given up on it.
Okay, there are a few more questions, but as I can see, our next speaker is already waiting.
Right.
I'm very thankful you've been joining us. Thank you very much, Matt. Hopefully next time you will be on stage again.
Thank you so much.
And if someone is having additional questions, please feel free to reach Matt on LinkedIn.
Yep, and I'll pop into the chat. I'll pop into the chat later.
Yeah. You will be online. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Have a good day.